kind words. First, I'd like to say good morning to the rector, to the staff, and to the boys. And yeah, they say there's an old joke that goes around, how do you know someone went to grade? And normally they say they tell you within the first 10 seconds. And I think Mr. Justice Squad killed about a minute of that, so thank you very much, sir. And my message to you guys is privilege beats obligation. You know, some say I'm 4 eyes, many say I have 2 eyes, but I believe I have 3 eyes. And that's impact, how can I influence, and how can I inspire? And that's how I live my life, through the lenses of those 3 eyes. And my message today is privilege beats obligation, but what privilege am I speaking about? I grew up with Wazakede, in a 3-bedroom house. Luckily the toilet was outside, so you had to be brave from a young age to go out at night. And yeah, it wasn't easy, but I was fortunate to have a grandma and a grandfather and a mother. My mother married and we moved to St. George's Strand, where I went to Blue Bay. And in Blue Bay I started playing sport. And that's where the privilege begins, the fact that you even have 2 parents from where we come from, or have a father figure and a mother figure, and understand the solidity of a solidified home and a normally functioning home is a privilege where we come from. So I went to Blue Bay, and it's quite a small primary school, so we always had to punch above our weight. Again, I learned that through sport, which is one of my messages, how sport and the power of sport actually brought about this privilege. And I remember going to EP under 12 trials, and Grey Boys were there, their nice bright blue tracksuits. And a friend of mine came, and I greeted him, and there was a big Grey Boy that came as well. And he asked me, hey, what position do you play? And I said, I play flank. And then this big boy chuckled, and he said to his friend, he got it easy. But he didn't know that at Blue Bay I had the privilege of a coach that took me under his wing. And when everyone else was resting in December, at the age of 11, we were running hurdles. He taught me a foundation of technique. He taught me how you have to build something up for 3 months, walking over HDH bottles and hockey sticks before you can actually run a hurdle. So when my friend said that, who became my friend later on, I looked at my friend from Blue Bay, I chuckled, and I'm like, he doesn't know this guy, I'm showing him. And those of you who've been to trials, you know how intimidating it is, but I knew that background. And that was a privilege that sport gave, the privilege to be able to pursue excellence. And after that trials, the next trials was just me and him left, and the grade mates were gone. And now we were friends. Hey bro, I hope we're the same team this time. You know, and in my mind, I always remembered what he said the week before. You know, so whenever I met him on the field, I knew that's what he thought of me. And that's basically how sports has given me the privilege to always pursue excellence. Because it's in the work ethic, it's in the effort that I get that confidence to say, I'm going to pursue excellence in this regard. Another privilege of sport is the privilege of support. You know, sport has shown you how you have to show up for your people in the most important times. And I use the example of my mother per se. So where we from, you know, it's difficult for our parents to come, you know, to these schools. They don't even know rugby, they don't even watch rugby, doesn't play on SABC2. By the time it's playing, 7 is on or Generations is on, so they don't get the chance to watch the games. So when I got to Blue Bay, that's the only time I've ever seen a rugby game or played rugby. And since then, my mother's been a supporter, and she's been with me throughout, you know, Craven weeks. And I still have the vivid memory of myself, Kerwin, Bokomela, and Faz. And there was a friend of mine from Daniel Pino as well. We were playing against the Bulls at the first game of Craven Week, and we looked up, and there were my mother and my sister and my friend's aunt holding cardboards that says number 14, and then number 8, and then number 6. You know, and they were shouting the loudest. And I think Mr. Bonner might remember, we played Grey Bloom under 15, and Grey Bloom, the small fields is right next to, the parents are right next to the field. Normally on the Pollock or Phillip, you know, they're over there. I never knew how loud my mom was until she started shouting, come on boy, do it for your mom, give your mom a try now. And I'm thinking to myself, okay mom, you know, and I scored one, and then she was even louder, now I need a second one, you know, and I just quietly, I was in the backline that day, you literally hear everything that's happening on the side, because backline players, we relax, and I was like, Mom, I got you, relax. So, you know, the meaning of support, I've had the privilege of understanding that and showing up for your people through sport. Another privilege that I've had through the power of sport is understanding how to lose. Very important. I use a story of us playing Porus after an unbeaten season on the 15, and we get there at 16, and we think we're going to blow these guys off the park. And there was a young fella that they warned us about. This is 15 at Porus, and I was playing flag at the time, and they had a 15 on this side and a 10 on this side. They were about to exit, and my whole motto was, if this ball goes to that 15, I'm clearing him out. Ball or ball kick, doesn't matter. You know, he's their main coach, he's their star player. Something needs to be done about that. And I remember the ball going, and I shot up with bloodshot eyes, and my opposite flanker, or my partner flanker, who was our captain, did the same. And this young little man just wiggled in between us, and his head hit my knee, and I was out for 2 years from rugby. And I remember looking up, and I saw that young guy just do the biggest swan dive I've ever seen in my life. You know, I always didn't want to get up from the ground because of that. And fast forward 2 years later, we playing Porus at the Makota, and I remember the night before, my mates and I, we were speaking to each other. And we're like, there's no way he's diving like that again. Like yeah, you know, the world had to stop before we see him dive like that again. And we're gonna actually blow these guys off the park. And fast forward 18 minutes into the game, 2 tries down. Next thing we know, we're 26 down. And it's the hottest day I've ever experienced. And this little man, who happens to be a Herschel Yanchis, moves to 9, gets a little snipe, and he chips the ball over. Now, you only have a split decision to make a decision in that instant. So you either stand still and be like, oh, well, he chipped it over me, or you quickly make that decision and turn around. And the only thing that I had in my mind was, he's gonna dive. If he gets that ball uncontested, he's gonna dive on live television, and that whole Porus there is gonna erupt. And I just turned around and I started chasing. And I told myself, I'm not even going to try and dive for the ball, I'm going to kick it. I'm going to kick it. And as I got there, luckily enough, I was able to get my foot under and I kicked the ball out and it knocked. Long story short, we came back to win 27-26. But the lesson is, there's a manner in which to lose, and that manner is only one thing. It must never be because of a lack of effort. So, whenever you feel like things aren't going your way, just always back on that. It must never be because of a lack of effort, and you can take pride and peace in that. Sport has taught me that it's in the toughest games where you see the big players come out. Big time players make big time plays, I'm sure you've heard that. And that's another privilege which sport has taught me. So it's not what we used to say, like, you know, at Graham College, Dispatch, you know, it's in the great colleges, it's in the poor races, it's in the Salmons where we really count, you know, where it really matters, where that steel on the 5, you know, becomes a momentum change. It's in those moments where you understand that the game is not going your way, and someone needs to do something, be it a tackle, be it a late one slightly, but someone needs to do something to make sure you're changing that momentum. And it's with that I take into what are the things that I do today. It's the privilege of which sport has given me to identify these things and live my life metaphorically through sport. How? COVID hit. I get a call from a random number. They're saying they got a call from an Uber, a lady who was in an Uber, and this lady said they must call me. They have a soup kitchen in Manolo. Am I willing to come and meet them? And 2 weeks before, I just lost my dad. But it was a total new revelation. Losing my dad just opened my eyes up to, you know, you're saying you want to be this person there when you're successful, when you're a Springbok, when you're this. But if it's really who you are, then you have to be that person now. And I said, yes, I'm willing to meet. And I went to the soup kitchen, and I saw informal settlements, shacks all over the place. It's nothing new. We grew up in and around that. But the only difference with these informal settlements, there was flowers plastered on everyone, painted on everyone. So when they took me on a tour of the community, I asked them, what's the deal with these flowers? And they said they run an art gallery in a soup kitchen. That became a soup kitchen because of the plight of COVID. But it was an art gallery where kids from that area used to come after school. Because there was a dump there, the kids used to play there, and then a kid passed away playing in that dump, so they decided to create an art gallery. And through this art gallery, they decided that each kid must paint their own house. So each kid painted their own house, and for me, that was a big revelation. That was something that I thought was pretty special. Because what does that do? It gives that kid a sense of identity. It gives that kid a sense of pride in their own home. Be it an informal settlement, be it a mansion. But then he felt proud about going to his house because he painted his flower on that house. And then I saw there was a lady who founded the soup kitchen. She had 6 kids of her own living out of a 2-bedroom shack. The 1 bedroom is where everyone slept, the other one is where the art gallery and the kitchen was, where they made the food in the soup kitchen. And that's when it really hit me. This lady's feeding hundreds of kids every Thursday out of her own shack, where she says 6 people. What am I doing with the privilege that I have? So I decided to throw myself wholeheartedly into the soup kitchen. We won an SA Rugby Legends give out, and we had a truckload of food parcels given to the soup kitchen. We even had Michaela and Andres Nokia. Michaela Nokia is Andres Nokia's wife, who I knew through sport, because I played with a younger brother who went to Galopino throughout the years. And, you know, again, it goes back to that privilege of sport. You know, and through that, Mama was saying, Nana, please, can you come be a director of the foundation in Mama Soup Nutrition? I said, Mama, I'm just here to serve. But I knew exactly where I needed to be. I knew exactly where I can impact, where I can influence, where I can inspire most, and that's on the field. So I decided to start Love Sport Africa, and we found that 80% of schools in the township don't have a sports program. So we decided to erect a program at a primary school called Athenkosi Mayinje, and decided to implement the Rugby for Women Empowerment Manual, which is a Rugby 101 and Life Skills Manual. From there, we decided to run that at Motherwell High, and that's when I started getting involved heavily into women's rugby. Why women's rugby? I never thought I would coach women's rugby. I have no aspiration of being a women's rugby Springbok coach, but the reasons are clear for all to see. More than 60% of homes in the township are women-led. 60% of kids are raised by single mothers. Rape, gender-based violence, it all affects women. We know that people have been marginalized throughout society, through the history of the world, but more so women. So I ask myself, me living metaphorically through the sport, and what the sport has given me, who actually needs it more? Who actually needs a bursary to a school like this when they can get education? Who actually needs a bursary to go to university? Is it the guy that happened to catch the ball and run fast? Or is it the person that's probably going to grow up, give birth to life, and then have to fend for that life alone? Because in those communities, absent fatherhood is a trend. So it's with that in mind that I'm in the field that I'm in, and it's one that I'm looking to change the narrative. In the same way that I need a momentum changing, I understand that there needs to be a momentum changer in a big game, whether it's a steal over 5, or a big tackle, or a big run. There needs to be a momentum changer in society. There needs to be a momentum changer within the field of sport. And it's with that in mind that I say that privilege breeds obligation. And the privilege that I've had to walk this journey through sport breeds the obligation of what I'm doing now. which is something that I love, and I wake up every day, and I thank God that I'm not anywhere else but here. So, yeah, I know it's a Talent Assembly, and I want to thank you once again, Mr. Erasmus, for the privilege. Thanks, Mr. Swanepoel, for the privilege to come and stand here, and I hope I did you guys justice and did the platform justice. And with that said, thank you very much.